Just a brief chat about puberty blockers. Now, this was an emergency ban on puberty blockers that was brought in by the last Conservative government. And yesterday, the High Court ruled that it was lawful. They were basically asked to make a ruling on this after a campaign group, Transactual, and a young person who can't be named, challenged the then Health Secretary Victoria Atkins's decision to impose the banning orders on puberty blockers for children who believe wrongly that they are born in the wrong body. And the case was funded and brought by the Good Law Project, which is led by one Julian Casey, a man who, as far as I can tell, has been at the wrong end of pretty much every court case ever. Let's talk about this with Fiona McAnena, who's Director of Campaigns at Sex Matters. Hello to you, Fiona.
Hello, Julia.
Thanks so much for joining us. I mean, the ban was brought in the wake, was it not, of the Hilary Cass review, made really serious concerns that the puberty blockers were being given to children and they weren't safe. So why did anyone challenge this?
Well, the answer to why it was challenged, I think, is because if you're a parent who has gone down this road with your child, it's shocking to think that maybe it was the wrong choice. Yeah. And so we know that there are people who are very committed to this. Some of them will have done it believing it was the right thing, and it's really hard to reverse out of that. But I think it's worth just recapping on the two scenarios here. So historically, when children were not given puberty blockers, their gender distress tended to go away as they went through puberty, and they realized that, of course, they were boys or girls, whatever they were. The vast majority of children grew out of their distress. But when children were given puberty blockers to stop them going through that natural process, almost all went on to take cross-sex hormones. And what Hilary Cass concluded is that puberty blockers did not solve their problem. They locked in this transgender identity. Yeah. Now, that might not matter were it not for the fact that these medical interventions have disastrous effects on young people's bodies. It's not a neutral thing. So it's really good to see that this has been depoliticized now. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, God, so many of us have been welcoming that review. And again, there was no evidence. We were told for years there's loads of evidence. The evidence has been mounting for years and years that there was no evidence these were safe, and that lots of parents are told two things. One, well, it's reversible. If they change their minds, it's reversible, it's not a problem. But they never are reversed because children, as you say, just move on to the next stage, to go down those tramlines. And the other thing is they're often told is, but your child will commit suicide if you don't allow them to go on this. And the kids know to say that. There are these YouTube videos, and like we had Elon Musk saying, his son, he said his son has basically been killed by these activists because now living as if he were a girl and trans. Because again, he said he was conned into signing away the rights to take treatment because he was told his son would commit suicide. Yes, I mean, parents are put under terrible pressures. They have a distressed child in front of them, and the activists are telling them that although this treatment is pretty serious in its consequences, the alternative is worse. Yeah. And I really feel for those parents. They're put in an awful position. But the irony is, I don't know of any other medical treatment where people would say, don't worry, it's reversible. Because if you actually have a medical condition, you need the treatment. You don't reverse it. So that's wrong. Yeah. And then, as we know, the government's advisor on suicide, Professor Louis Appleby, did the work to say, and published a report to say, don't worry, this is not true that there is some kind of terrible spike in suicide. Yeah. And thank goodness for that.
And again, facts. All we need is the facts. I mean, mums who worry about giving their kid a paracetamol or a second spoonful of Calpol, for goodness sake, and we're told you have to be so careful about children's health. But no, it's absolutely fine. Give these incredibly powerful drugs that completely change their child's bodies and brains. That's fine. I mean, there was a letter published over the weekend of a father writing to a doctor, to a surgeon, saying, please don't cut off my daughter's breasts and ruin her life forever. Parents are so desperate. And it's extraordinary. Julian Moorham and the Good Law Project, I think they're the nice, good people, the virtue signalling people. They raised a whole load of money from fools, giving the money to them to fight this case, to try and just have more, I think, frankly, abuse of unhappy, disturbed young people. And it is absolutely evil. I don't use that word lightly. It's evil.
Well, there's an extraordinary reversal here, isn't there? Because if you really cared about those young people, you would say to them, don't worry, it gets better. Yes. Most children will grow out of this. You are not going to kill yourself. You wouldn't even talk about that. They're doing the opposite.
Yeah. But then you'd have to admit it was a feeling as opposed to reality, and that's where that falls down. Fiona McAnena, you've just done amazing work on this along with everyone at Sex Matters. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.